But this was also compressed and compiled under Windows Movie Maker, which would save a lot of space, which I'll get into earlier. So that's just a typical example. Something like that is what I would upload directly to YouTube or share out over Dropbox.
So that was 640 by 480?
I was only 640 by 480.
At 30 frames?
Let me double check.
I think that's what it said.
Yeah.
So what does that mean?
Okay. So resolution on your monitor, right? So you've got 640 by 480. So 640 is going to be your width and 40 is going to be your height, right? So 640 pixels across by 480 pixels across is what it's going to end up at. So when you get into, like, when they say 1080, that's 1080 pixels across. So the higher that 640 by 480, 800 by 600, the higher that goes, the bigger each of those frames has to be, and the bigger the file size is going to be. This laptop, I believe, has a 15-inch screen. Anything over 640 by 480 looks pretty huge. It doesn't really quite work. Kind of got to size it to your monitor if you're looking at it internally. If you're sending it out, I personally like to send it out in the absolute highest resolution and highest frame rate I can, and then I let them deal with, okay, it won't work on my computer, I need to bump it down, because I want to get the best quality video I can.
Are you going to teach us how to change it?
I sure will, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, so this is an example of a slow motion camera. So as you can tell, it's incredibly slow. And this is recording, don't quote me on it, but if the last one was about 30 frames per second, this is going to be in like the 240 per second range. I absolutely love watching this video for technique, because instead of taking it into a program where I have to break it down frame by frame, this is doing it for me automatically. You can take an awesome look at the technique people are using, how their body is reacting to certain movements, and the only one thing that I would strongly suggest you do, when not only just looking at this video, but looking at all video, is try and take gauging completely out of the picture. I use video to gauge people's habits, not individual fights. If I've got 100 videos of you and 95 of those looks like you're blowing off shots, I'm going to go with the average. Probably you're blowing off shots. If I've got one video of you and it looks like you're blowing off a shot, I throw it out the window. I try not to connect gauging, because we have absolutely no bearing here if that was, you know,
Bam.
oh, that's a good shot. But
Ghost wire.
Is that dude Sean?
Has secrets?
no, that's Sir Sigurd and Magnus.
Magnus.
So, you know, if we were to play that video at full speed, that knee would have been extremely hard to see. You put that on something like YouTube, you've got to constantly click back and it's going to restream. It's very hard. This, I was pretty definitive right there. So I don't have the model name and number on me right now, but the one camera that he has, I'll be happy to send it out to anybody else. I believe it's at about $250. It can also record in full speed, so you get both plays. It's been absolutely awesome for us in breaking down techniques like that.
So you need a specific camera style to do a slow motion?
Yeah, this is a specific camera that is geared around doing slow motion, and then it can also do regular motion and pictures, right?
Do you find that with the higher frame rate, 640 by 480 is enough resolution to see what you need to see? Because when I look at video, it seems like frame rate would be more important for what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. Frame rate is absolutely key for what we're looking at. See, this video, it kind of lies, right? It looks like it's only recording at 204 or 29 frames per second, but really the camera is doing all that frames per second stuff. What the camera does, to get technical, is as it's taking in all the information, takes in as much as we can, and then it buffers it internally, and then it puts it into a file format, which you later download. So this kind of lies when it goes about it. Yeah.
What was the size of that file that you just did?
That was 80 megabytes.
So it's twice, the same 30 seconds, twice the
yes. I would say that
because the other one was 30 seconds, and that one was about 30 seconds.
this one's actually a minute 33.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So the thing you can take forward is The length of the video is directly related to the file size. If the video is 30 seconds, the file size is going to be very small. If it's a 5-minute video, file size is going to be very large. That's a general rule of thumb. Things like resolution and frame rate are going to bump that up and up. The higher the frame rate, the longer the video, the better the resolution, the larger the file size is going to be.
Is that one kind of misleading, where that one's more of a, how it's taken the acquisition of the camera, and where
Yeah.
with it like 120 frames per second, that's only showing like a quarter of a second when it's saying like 29 frames per second?
Absolutely, yeah.
I have a question. Can you take a high-def recorded piece and do some slow work with it? Is there editing
Yeah,
features?
absolutely. I'm going to get into that later. Okay. Okay, so we will get into the actual programs I use to break down the video. So I like to use only free tools. I don't want to tell anybody to go pay $100 on this piece of software because some technical person somewhere has created a free version that's probably just as good. So there's three major programs I use. First one is QuickTime by Apple. I'm not an Apple guy per se, but there's some navigation features within QuickTime that I really, really, really like. I don't know if I have any raw video in here that I can open up with QuickTime, but I will find out. Yes, I do. Okay. So, okay, so let me get back to this here. So, 3 programs. I use QuickTime. I use Windows Movie Player, and I use a third one called VLC Player. So the major difference between the 3 is the file formats that they can open. QuickTime primarily works with MPEG file formats, which is typically what comes off of a camera as the raw files. The second one is Windows Movie. It plays pretty much everything except for the MPEG files that come directly off the camera. And then the third one is the VLC player. I believe I have that installed, but that thing plays everything, absolutely everything. Free download, highly recommend it. It's probably the most used one for video review. I'll get into why I use QuickTime specifically right now. So if you want, so I've got all 3 of those programs installed, right? I've got a specific movie file from last practice right here. Now, when I right-click it, I get this menu called Open With. That'll give me the option of which program I want to open that file with. So you've got 3 programs. Each file format's going to have its default, but if you want to open it up with a different program, you can use the Open With.
That's a Windows 7 specific. I think if you hold down Shift and you right-click on stuff in Windows XP, you'll get the Open With.
Okay.
You can do the same for minutes.
Is it down? Okay, so I'm going to select QuickTime Player here. And here we go. So this is Sir Max over here, and this is myself, and this was from Monday. So the cool thing about QuickTime I like is I get to navigate on the fly using the arrow keys. So I hold down the right arrow key, and it just plays. Now when I let go of the arrow key, it stops. Now when I do a single tap on either direction of the arrow key, it starts to break it down frame by frame by frame.
And that's the arrow key on your keyboard.
And that's the arrow key on my keyboard, right? Hold it down, get back to it. So I'll get into this later, but one of the things I use video to do is to look back at results within the fight, right? So maybe Max thought this leg shot was good. Maybe I'm trying to prove it to him that it wasn't. Maybe I'm worried about my own gauging. Maybe I want to know why his shot wasn't successful. He wants to know why the shot was successful. We can take it, we can go back and forth and back and forth. And we can look, okay, he lines up, my knee comes forward, he goes to hit it, cocks, my shield comes down, my knee goes back. It's hard to tell because the sword is moving so fast, it's blurry, but it looks like it just skims off my knee there. So some people have tunnel vision when they fight. They're unable to go back into what just happened. Some people have video replay in their head already ready to go. This gives you a really definitive look at what happened and why.